Thank you, everyone, for attending our meeting tonight, and I'll call that order after the pledge. We do not have anyone for the open forum, but before we get to approval of today's agenda, welcome, Dr. Heil. It's great to see you over there.
Thank you.
We'll you'll probably have plenty to talk about here in a little bit, so we'll leave that for then. All right, so I will look for approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And there's a second. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose, the same sign. Okay, agenda is approved. And number 5, request for donations, Mr. Durbin.
Thank you, Chair Klott, School Board, Superintendent Heil. Short list this evening, but I do appreciate this process and hope we can continue with it. So 3 donations for your approval this evening. A donation from Casey's to our ALC, a generous donation from Poet of $3,000 to our ALC for a project we've mentioned earlier which also included some other donations from community partners. So to our new washer and dryer that's going into Brookside here for our ALC. And then also a donation from the Blackbaud Giving Fund to our early childhood special education. So at this time, ask for your approval of those donations.
Thank you. Any, well, I better look for a motion to approve those donations.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any comments on the donations, questions?
What would it take to get that poet donation together?
I believe that ALC staff had seeked out the donation from Poet, and this would be a grant from Poet there, so.
Anything else?
And just to acknowledge the work of our ALC staff, administration, Johanna Thomas and Andrew Gustafson on the work on that project, doing a great job with it, so.
Good. Thank you. All right, seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose the same sign. Donations passes. Okay, number 6 are consent items. Have one motion for all of those. You had an opportunity to read them. I would look for a motion to approve the consent items.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Neil. Is there a second?
Second.
Mary Jo, second. All right, is there any discussion on the consent? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose the same sign. Okay, consent items pass. All right, number 7, Dr. Heil, Superintendent's report.
Sure. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the board, thanks for the opportunity to present tonight. You'll see in front of you just a quick part of my days here as we began for the last 3 weeks, transition. So you see I've met with, it's getting closer to 50 people after today, just kind of individually and with groups. That's not counting like the Kiwanis, the mayor, and them just with district employees. I have been Kiwanis meetings, met with the mayor, met with the backpack program today just to make sure that we're moving forward with that and that they know they have support from the superintendent's office. Interesting thing at the Kiwanis meeting, talked to a couple community members and this is a good part about these meetings is the question came to me is, geez, Heil, why did you shut down the walking track, or not me specifically, but why did the district shut down the walking track? And Paul and I looked at each other and we're like, it's not shut down. What are you talking about? And they're like, well, outside at Hammer Complex, it's not open. And so Paul and I talked about it briefly, and Paul said, hey, I have this sign I've been trying to put up there on the complex. So I looked at Paul, I said, order 1 or 2 of them quick. Let's get it. When we get the sign, we'll post it, and then we'll get it back out to the community that it's open. So at 6:30 in the morning when the guys get there, they just unlock the gate and slide it open, and the walkers can be there 6:30 to 8. Typically, they just leave it open for a while. When the kids get out on the field, since there's footballs or balls floating around, we usually have people not go there. But it's just one of those community things that it should be open. It's just never been posted. And Paul had the right idea. That's Paul's signing. He had it ready to go. So we'll get that up there. The little QR code is there for any donations or anything people might want to give. But again, it's just that communication to the community. And hey, we're open, and these, thank you for all that you've given us, and this is here to use. So we'll do the same for the walking track here at Brookside. Talking to Darcy, she said people don't realize that's still open. So I'm sure it's a little holdover from the pandemic where we kind of couldn't have people come in, but we'll get those going. But it's those meetings where people ask those questions, and then that allows me to come and ask people and find out the story, and then get the information back to them. So if you go back to the slides. We've had a full administration meeting, so all the principals, district leadership, other leaders throughout the district. That was took most of the day. It was good to see how that was done, and then we'll make some adjustments as we come into further meetings. And then I'll work on the full tour of all the buildings, and when I say full tour, that's, if I gotta wear jeans that day and crawl through some tunnels, that's what I got to do all the way to the roof, but just get an idea of the building, and then make those themes that I'm hearing. And I can tell you right now, there are a few themes that are coming up, and one is the level of trust. And that's something that the 7 of you and I have talked about in depth, and that came through in the interviews. The other one that won't surprise you is communication, lack thereof. And I think that sign just points right at it, right to the whole community. Transparency, and not only in just communication, but in the processes and the procedures that we use. And then also transparency, but also decision-making. It's been a top-down model for a while. Again, that is something that we've all talked about. And I think in these 3 weeks, some people have seen some slight changes, and they're like, hey, input is really taken. He does seek input. He does use district employees and community members and parents and students in ways that I think make us a stronger district. So on the community part there, I attended the one Wind Down Wednesday. Could have went to 2 of them, but the one got canceled due to weather. That's just about being visible. Try to stop by the summer camps when I see them going on, as long as I have a few minutes. I'm so jam-packed right now with meetings that I barely have a couple of minutes in between, and sometimes I'm texting. I'm 5 minutes late, but I'm coming from this meeting. Funny stories, I walked out there and all the football coaches looked at me because the football camp was going on. I had about 15 minutes, so I thought I could get out on the field, get back, and get to Brookside in 15 minutes. And they all looked at me, and I've talked to Paul Dunn before, and he goes, "What are you doing out here?" And I go, with that comment, how often has a superintendent walked out here besides graduation? He looked at me and he looked at the kids and he said, "First time." So, well, he really said never, but I'll say first time. So we kind of laughed. So then I was able to talk to some of the kids and had to turn around and go talk to a couple of parents that were watching, and they were excited to see somebody else out there. So, and then you'll see me business tours. So that'll be me contacting businesses. I like to get into them. And this will be something that I do, not just now, but periodically get to the business leaders, get to the owners, make sure that we're doing what they need us to do as a school district and any ways that we can help them. And it's just good to know the businesses. So hiring update. So the administration hiring process, people got to experience that with the high school principal. I saw our high school principals in the back of the room tonight, so welcome. But then Sean and I started working through, he said, well, we got to hire an AP. So I showed him the process that I use now that he's on the other side of the table, and worked through that, adjusted it for an AP. So he sent the staff a survey. Generally, we'd survey parents and students too. We just did that with the principal, and I'm guessing those surveys will be almost dead on there. So we've got a lot of data from that we'll use, but we're also going to survey the teachers who may view the assistant principal role slightly different. Well, I know they will, have being a high school teacher before, just to get their input, and we can compare it all there too. The one that's scaring the district a little bit, when I talk to HR, is the Hawthorne music teacher. So that one's we're getting down to the wire where most of those music teachers are hired somewhere else. So and the the high school counselor. So, but we're working through those processes, and then Ashley and I through HR, we're working to kind of solidify the processes that we use so that if anything were to happen to me, that process is there for the district to use. So, and then I'll work with Dave on a coach hiring process that's a little more in-depth than I think the district's ever used before. But I know from the districts I've been in the past, parents, athletes, board members, and community really appreciate a process, especially hiring head coaches. I had a good, long meeting with TeamWorks. Dr. Ray Queener came, and that would be your strategic plan. So, and I was really open and honest. And you can ask Darcy, because I left the door open because I needed information. I was pretty honest with them. And they were really honest with me, and that's what I would expect. From their standpoint, it never really rolled out as it was ever designed to roll out. And I think you would agree as a board with that. And you can kind of see, we discussed the non-alignment of the strategic plan with the district, and that's what it is. Now, when you read the strategic plan, I see where they went with it and where the alignment was. But I'd probably say the average parent, the average citizen, probably most of the teaching staff or para staff or custodial, they don't see the alignment in that because it was never rolled out correctly. All the information that we have, we're missing several components of it. Those components were provided to the district. They were just, again, never rolled out or never given. So I'm in the process of getting that information from TeamWorks, and we paid for it. So it's not anything we have to pay more for. It's not anything that they're holding on to. They're getting the documentation to me. And then I told them, you kind of owe it to me to work with you so that we can get this thing rolled out. Because in their mind, that's what they want too. They want to see us have success with the product they helped design for the district. To put everybody at ease, this takes time and it's a process. So don't think that I'm going to come in all of a sudden and hit this hard. We're going to ease our way into it. Simply because we have other things in the district that are working very well and we need to build and continue momentum there. But TeamWorks did feel that everybody that they had involved really put good input and good data into how they build their strategic plan. So this is what I know. It was completed in an environment of low trust and communication. And I said, I'll always be honest with you with that. And I know that's the environment it was completed in. So we're going to need to test the results they have with our community, with our teachers and staff to make sure this is indeed the direction and the strategic plan they want. So when I say this will be slow, it'll involve many people, it'll involve district employees, and we're going to test it all, make sure it's right, and then we'll get to the point where we're using it and rolling it out. So the good part of that is that takes a little bit of time, especially with a new guy coming in. So, and then with alignment, so like I had said, we're working on processes and procedures. And I can tell you from the board, and it doesn't matter what the staff does for the district or who I talk to, everybody talks about we need alignment. We don't feel like the whole system's working in one direction. In the admin, everybody wants that alignment in the district. When you look at the numbers I put on the side there, 1, 2, and 4, that's the impact of alignment. Number 3 is where we're starting. We're starting with, you can see where we're starting to build some alignment. This is how we're going to start hiring administrators. I have a process of this is how we'll start hiring head coaches. And we'll bring that through and work with the individual schools and the principals about this is how we're going to start hiring teachers or paras and stuff. And the main point is for HR. HR knows if we have a process and everybody follows the process and in the end, this is the results of it, then Ashley or HR knows we followed this pattern so that if anybody ever questions what was done or what the steps were used, that even if you weren't in the room, you know how it was supposed to go. And then we just kind of work with all the employees so they know this is how we do things. So it's really building the Albert Lee way, or the Tiger way, however you want to say it. So looking forward to that. I can tell you with all the alignment, the one piece that aligns across the district is the HRS. I have heard many positive things from all levels across the district. So I know with staff, especially teaching staff and admin staff across the district, I'm a Marzano guy, so I've studied his research. I know what following his processes can do. So very much HRS is a part of something that I believe in too. So I think we build on that, we build the momentum, and then we keep building processes and procedures. So, and we'll create that alignment of HRS with the other district directions. And really so that they're not different directions, that this is what we do and this is how we're successful. So been a fun first 3 weeks. Can't wait to keep doing it. So, and we'll keep moving forward. So thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, school board members report.
Thank you. The only thing that I have to update on is I have started attending the COE initiative meetings. I just launched, I think, right after school got out. Very excited about what that means for Albert Lee students, and more to come on that. But I think the foundation's potentially involved, and really it gives students an opportunity to get that it connects to those the academy piece and the pathways piece for our students, just really adding value to that with actual experiences of, and then it's my understanding that at the end of the year, they do a trade show where they actually are selling their product. And it can be quite impressive. I don't know if you've had experience, Steve, with other schools, but I know area schools that do it, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I sat on the CEO board for Right Tech, so I was in it. I know this process. It's an awesome program.
Yeah. So right now, we're in the process of getting some stakeholders established, board members, and then actually it takes quite a bit of money to run. And so you might know somebody or have been approached to help. And so anybody you recommend, I know that's what we're kind of doing right now, but really looking forward to potentially that group coming. It's community-led, supported by the high school. I think Sean and Caitlin at the high school would be happy to answer any questions you have about it, but I know that I'll be actively involved and happy to share anything I can with you. Thanks.
Not much, excuse me, not much to report on. Just came back from Bethany Beach, which has nothing to do with school district, other than the fact that I see lots of really wonderful kids running around on the beach having a great time, and it reminds me of how enthusiastic young people are and how much of a challenge it is to maintain that enthusiasm in the process of our educational system. The actual educational commitment that I have throughout the last month has been mostly Education Foundation, and that's challenging. Lots of things going on. Serving as custodian for over 20 scholarships and getting transcripts lined up with scholarships and colleges and writing checks is fun and challenging, and it's a challenge to keep track of all that. We also have within the last month, I believe, delivered a check to District 241 for over $6,000 for 14 or 15 teachers receiving teacher grants. And that's also a lot of fun to do. And the only other thing with the Education Foundation is the continuing seasonal plan for the reception in October for connected with Pathways to Success, which honors distinguished alumni and distinguished educators, usually 4 of each. That's it.
Thank you. I sat on the team to hire the high school principal, and very pleased, Mr. Gaston, congratulations. Also hearing great things in the community, Dr. Heil, that you're getting out, and great feedback, so people are really appreciating that. And then I guess you and I will meet this week as well, and so look forward to that.
I don't have a lot to report, no committee meetings, but last week I did officially get to meet up with Superintendent Heil and talk about a number of issues, and I'm just very, very excited that you're here.
Yeah, ditto. I was participating in the principal interviews. Good process, and I'll tell you what, I was very impressed with the students that were there. They displayed a level of maturity that I was just really, really impressed with their questions at the end of the interview. Neil, thanks for the update on the foundation. It's been fun to write those scholarship checks with you and the teacher grants. I do want to add too that the Education Foundation is supporting Discover History too for this next round. On a more personal note, the fair's coming up and we have band students help us do bingo. This is the Albert Lee Lions Club. We give them 10% of the proceeds, and I think last year we wrote them a check for $1,000. So that's fun. And I have to just mention one thing. I follow some of our students through VFW baseball, and what an impressive season. But on Sunday, I was a guest announcer with Power 96, so that was kind of cool. So you may not care, but I'm thinking it's going to take me in a whole different direction here. I'm counting the money. Oh, it's all good.
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of committee meetings going, actually 0 committee meetings. I did want to touch base, though. My kids have been participating in a lot of community ed stuff throughout the summer, a lot of different camps, engineering camp, tennis, kayaking, archery. Some of that might be mixed in with Parks and Rec. But I just want to say they've been really well-ran. The teachers and the coaches have been really good at communicating with weather and stuff and sending emails and even some phone calls if needed to. But they've been really, really well ran and been super impressed with it. So having a lot of fun this summer. Busy as heck, I tell you what. That's it.
Other than a bunch of individual meetings, nothing committee-wise to report on. And so we've got our teacher rep here tonight. Go ahead.
All right. Hi, I am Kristen Seeger. I'm a media specialist at Sibley, Lakeview, and Southwest. And our message from the ALEA tonight is just a warm welcome to Dr. Heil. And just wanted to let the school board know that we're very pleased with the meet and greets that have been offered to all district staff, the survey request that was sent out for the hiring of the high school principal, and the staff-wide announcements regarding the hiring of Mr. Gaston as the new principal. We feel like these first steps are a welcome improvement in communication throughout the district, so thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Okay, 8, safe and healthy schools, 9, curriculum instruction, nothing there. 10, we have effective and efficient operations, the LTFM plan for 27, Mr. Durbin.
All right, thank you, Chair Klott, school board members, Superintendent Heil. I think I get a couple back-to-back here for you. So I did try to include in your board packet a few resources, but every year when we look at this, it always takes a little more explanation and probably some conversation. So see if I can get the clicker going. Gotcha. There we go. Okay, so a few points about our LTFM, which stands for Long-Term Facilities Maintenance. This is a program that's run through MDE, Minnesota Department of Education, and it's required to get school board approval every year. What we are approving this evening is the fiscal year 27 LTFM plan. Essentially, we're planning out beyond just what's in front of us. And actually, we're going to approve 10 years of a plan. But this does take some reflection annually, and as things change, we make adjustments, and that's the reason we look at this annually. So in your board packet, before I dive into some of this, you should see a revenue worksheet that is submitted to MDE for approval. This will go to the Commissioner of Education, and you'll also have an expenditure worksheet. Those are the two components that we're approving this evening. And there's a couple talking points that we'll zero in on, focus in on, and then just kind of get to some of the main points at a high level, and we'll see what conversation there is. So a few things. The deadline for submittal is July 31st, so that's why we are here this evening. There will be a motion or a resolution to approve this plan. And once approved, we complete that paperwork and send in a statement of assurances to MDE, Commissioner of Education, and then we're running. So some requirements in our plans. They have to include provisions for implementing a health and safety program. So we'll try and highlight where those dollars are in the plan. Bless you. And also the plans must indicate whether we will issue or have issued bonds to finance the plan. So when we think of our recent construction projects for our boilers at Lakeview or Southwest Middle School, or the dehumidification system at the high school, those would be the types of projects we want to make sure are outlined in the plan, as those were financed through bonds. If you go way back to prior to 2015, many people know LTFM as deferred maintenance or health and safety programs. Those were the old language. LTFM replaced that. And LTFM plans can be executed out of Fund 1 or 6. So Fund 1 is your general fund and Fund 6 is your construction fund. And also these are managed and tracked through our UFAR's Uniform Financial Accounting Reporting Standards, like all other finances in the district. So a couple points here, some examples of allowable and not allowed uses. So allowable uses would be deferred capital expenditures, maintenance to prevent erosion of our facilities. So preventative maintenance or replacement for items that are near end of life to keep our buildings in good condition. You can also use LTFM for increasing accessibility to schools. So maybe sidewalks, entryways, floors. If you have anything that's not accessible, you can upgrade to make sure it's meeting accessibility requirements. Can be used for health and safety projects. Or a new addition, I believe a couple of years ago, was for remodeling or constructing single-use restrooms to meet MDE requirements. Some examples of uses that are not allowed would be new facilities or new construction, energy efficiency projects, violence prevention and security projects. Those we would more often use capital funds. So with that, we also included a spreadsheet this evening. It looks more like this. Since capital and LTFM are often very closely related, we build out a 10-year plan for both, and they're in the same spreadsheet. So that will outline the LTFM components and the capital components. So capital does not need MDE approval, and some allowable expenditures under capital would be to purchase land, build, lease properties, build buildings, improve your school sites. So there's kind of there's going to be some crossover where maybe you could use capital or LTFM for similar projects, right? When we talk about those site improvements or repairs. Also increasing accessibility, safety and health projects. But in capital, you can do energy projects. You can use it for technology, textbooks, media. You can use it to purchase vehicles. The other one here not listed is you can also pay staff that fit under some of these categories, technology, that sort of thing. So a little more flexibility with capital funds. But on that note, a lot less revenue towards capital funds. So here's an outline of the process that we started a couple years ago. And we do our best to try to follow this process. And I think we're always growing and looking for ways to modify this. In fact, I talked to Superintendent Heil earlier today as we review this, just seeking feedback and how we can improve the process for our LTFM plan. So this isn't just a homework assignment that hits us in the month of July. This is a project that we are working on annually. As things occur during the year, maybe we have a hiccup or something breaks down, something might have to be adjusted or changed, right? So the process looks a little like this. We'll review our prior year plans, progress. We'll note setbacks throughout the year as we're going through the plan and following those budgets. We'll conduct facility assessments. So our facilities coordinator will kind of keep an ongoing list of how our mechanical units are doing. As he works with contractors, they'll put notes in on what they've fixed or repaired. And we just kind of have a list of what's needed throughout the year and how things are going. We'll collect feedback and input from custodians, maintenance team, and administrative teams, typically in January. And those custodian conversations between Kevin Peak, our facilities coordinator, and our head custodians, those are ongoing discussions. Like if something's breaking down in their building or needs attention, pretty frequently connect on those issues. But typically bring principals in January and review the 10-year plan. And from there, we put together a needs list, and it gets pretty in-depth. If you think about 10 years of projects, we need a really large list, right? And not everything that gets on this list falls into the plan. So from there, we'll coordinate and collaborate with our experts. So our roofing engineers at Tremco help us with some of the plans and maybe potential costs for projects or where the needs list would be, where we can prioritize items. Our local electricians, plumbers, so any of our experts in the field that are helping us with this. From there, we kind of determine reasonableness. And we coordinate, what can we do with the amount of money that we have in LTFM? Prioritize our list, go out for bids and quotes for the upcoming year. If a project is under $175,000, we essentially just need to go get 3 quotes. And then we go with the best quote for the district. If it's over $175,000, we need to follow bid law and make sure we document that process. And so a lot of times when we talk about roofs or larger construction projects, we make sure that the engineers are involved in that process with us. Also, we reflect on what's allowable, what's appropriate, and a lot of times that might tell us whether it needs to fall into capital or LTFM. And then we build and update our plan every July and resubmit. And so you may see some similarities to this year's plan from last year, just on, where our needs were. But there's also some changes. A good example of that was this year we had a boiler that was, as we did our facilities assessments, every indication was that it was okay. And then mid-year, something was happening with it. And this winter, towards the end of the year, it was down. And then when we brought in a couple different vendors to try to repair the boiler, they said it's done. Nothing we can do. So there we had to pivot. So then we'll see a change in this year's plan, right? So it's just kind of how we navigate that process. And a lot of work goes into this throughout the year. So appreciate the support from Kevin Peak as we look at this plan today too. So here tonight, we've got an overview of the 10-year plan, the LTFM spreadsheets, and then we'll ask you to vote and adopt the 10-year plan. So one requirement was that we have to note our health and safety components. So please, this is impossible to read the spreadsheet for anybody looking at the screen, and I acknowledge that. I just wanted to point out, so if you do go to the board packet and you review these spreadsheets, you can see the different categories. So if you look to the top here, under category 1, these would be our health and safety categories. So as we look at the columns to the right of that, those would be the funds that we're designating to our health and safety categories in LTFM. And then at the bottom, down here, so just so we're aware of where our revenues are coming in, this is where we're gonna see the revenue in levy and aid. And this gets very confusing because there's also levy and aid that will go into our debt service fund to pay for other LTFM qualifying expenditures. But this is what hits this pool of money here in the general fund. And then one last note while we're on this slide, and I'm sorry to make you pivot. I wish this laser would show up on the screen for you as the board too. Down here, if you notice the Fund 6, we've got this planned out to sunset in fiscal year 26, this school year. So those projects with the high school HVAC, dehumidification, and then our safety funds that we use for entryways and replacing locks and doors, those should be completed this school year. That's the goal. So at a glance, all that in just a real brief high-level summary, and I'm open to questions on this as well. The estimated revenue over 10 years, and if you looked back a year or two, this number would look a lot larger. Remember, we sold bonds for those LTFM projects that bonds, they were LTFM bonds, basically bonds against our revenue that we receive as a school district for LTFM. So the payments come out of this. Now that amount is deducted from our revenue as a district, and it's going straight into debt service to pay for those debt payments as we move forward. So it's basically subtracted, and this is now the actual revenue we'll see over the next 10 years. Little warning, that is a projected revenue. It's based off of our enrollment and our actually facility square footage and age. So a couple factors that go into that. So then we have the 10-year debt obligation, which would be our debt service there. And then our annual revenue, if we just divide that over 10, you know, kind of what we can anticipate each year of what we'll spend on LTFM and how much we would spend on our health and safety expenditures. All right, so then this next slide here, this is, I would say I said we would dissect this or pull out kind of the guts of the plan. These codes here on the left side, our finance codes, this is when we talk about our UFARS accounting. These are the types of projects that qualify, and each one of these has a really in-depth description of what an allowable expenditure would be for each of those. And we could go into the UFARS manual and kind of unpack that. But when you see the numbers to the right of these categories, that's how much we plan to spend on each of those types of projects. And then again, our summary. And just to break down this table, the top section is how much we plan to spend on our capital funds, so not LTFM. This is not what we're seeking approval on this evening. These would be those capital funds, and you notice that we have about $165,000 a year budgeted for capital. So it's not as much as people may think. And then our LTFM budget is much larger. And if you remember, I said it would be about $958,000 a year annually. But when I started in the facilities role 2 or 3 years ago, I think we had a deficit of about $750,000. And so the only way to correct that is to plan less expenditures for a few years to get back to neutral. Now, a deficit in LTFM isn't allowable. It's allowable to have a deficit there, but it's not a good practice. So it's probably most appropriate that we try to, in our plan, correct that and get back to this. Now, to try and reverse $750,000 in 1 year with a $950,000 budget isn't really practical. So we've chipped away at it here, and you can see that reflected in the pink line here. This shows that progress where hopefully by 2030, we're going to be positive balance there in our LTFM account. And then the bottom is our construction fund. Some of these projects are capital and some are LTFM. And I wanted to make sure I highlight that. So if this number, 387,000, looks different than the LTFM application, it's because we have some capital included in our Fund 6. But again, we're going to try and sunset out any of the construction fund this year. Okay, so then just a couple more just high-level highlights. So what I did, started doing last year and I brought to the table here today is any projects that we will see next school year that are going to be a sum of over $10,000 in estimated cost. I like to outline for the board so you're aware of what larger projects we would be having related to LTFM and capital. So here, just pulled from this plan, there's a few different, you see it's a mix from all various sites of different things that we'll be looking to upgrade or replace or fix. So Hammer Complex, looking at doing some fencing and irrigation repairs. We've been having a lot of headaches with the irrigation system up there. Just from the original design and build, it's never been right for that facility. So just working through that. Halverson Elementary, doing some restroom upgrades or replacements of old fixtures. Some classroom and cupboards. I know Principal Larson was here this evening, brought to our attention in some of those administrator meetings that we were talking about in January. And it's actually a couple of years ago, she brought forward that they have some cupboards and countertops that are just crumbling. They're getting old, falling apart. And so we're able to get to those this year in the 10-year plan. Hawthorne, we're looking to bring in some bleachers to that gymnasium so we can get a little bit better use there. I think right now they've just got some old seating that we pull out along the side. Hawthorne classroom doors, so we talk about those safety projects. Their doors all have wood frames in that building. And the locks are all different. The door mechanisms on every door is different. So when we had that focus on safety, this was one we hoped we would get to with this pool of safety funds that we had. And we have just enough to get through that with Hawthorne, and we're really excited to put steel door frames in with nice new doors with all new locking mechanisms and keys so that all of our elementary schools will be keyed in a similar manner with safe and secure doors in their classrooms. So it'll be a nice upgrade. Hawthorne, that's, I noticed, I noted a surprise earlier, boiler replacement. Those are not cheap. And I got to give compliments to Kevin Peak again for his creativity and moving some things around in this plan to make it work. We hope to have that up and running by September in Hawthorne, which was a very fast turnaround. So he pulled some strings with those contractors, I believe, because I'm really surprised. There is another boiler there, so if it's a little slow getting up and going, we'll be in an okay place. So it's just in those real cold winter months, January, February, we want to be for sure up and running. Lakeview, we've got some old fixtures and stalls in the restrooms that need upgrades. I'll tell you, the bathrooms in that building all need a lot of attention, and I think over the 10-year plan, we'll get some more opportunity there. The high school has a lot of needs between activities in the classroom, but one that we've really been trying to limp through is our roofing projects at the high school, and they just keep getting more and more expensive. So you'll probably see this every couple of years. We need to spread it out because of the expenses that are going to the roof, but we'll continue to try and chip away to get that roof finished up at the high school. Heat pumps are an annual thing there at the high school. There's 296 heat pumps, which those are what bring the heat into the classrooms and they air condition the classrooms. And so they're just a constant replacement. I think we do about 6 a year, and they're really expensive. So just by design, that building needs more attention. I applaud the patience of our administration and our counselors and our activities office at Albert Lee High School. They've had a fire panel that's been going into error constantly over the last year. And it's not like sending off the entire fire alarm, but it sends this annoying beeping through the office. And so it's time. We need to invest in this replacement for the fire panel. And we're finally moving towards a solution there. We had a retaining wall collapse, so this is another addition at the high school. It's over by the greenhouse and the F-wing, I would say, in the exterior of the building. And we just can't have, loose cinder blocks and the retaining wall falling there. So that's a pretty significant expense. It's a really big wall if you do get your eyes on it. The middle school, some landscaping repair, including some trees that we're running into. We have so many ash trees in this district that they're on a constant plan. Every year we need to take a few of them and treat them or take them down. And it's just the nature of having that much property. And then getting to some sidewalk repairs, removing some trip hazards, working on accessibility to the middle school. So quite a list for one school year. These projects add up. Compliments to our team, maintenance, custodian, and all our contractors that work with us locally. They do a great job. So 2 charts, and then I'll wrap this up. So a couple ways to look at your 10-year plan. What I've done is kind of dissected with the categories. Where are the funds going? So you see roofs, 33%. They're getting more and more expensive. Now, what we are doing with our roofs is we're making sure they're going to last us 30-plus years, right? So we're not just doing the patchwork repairs. We've got a really good plan. We're seeing less and less leaks. I know the one site, I think Southwest Middle School had a handful of issues, and we're starting to chip away at those. But Tremco's been doing a good job at guiding us through a plan for our roofs. And they'll actually help us try and place some of those into our 10-year plan if they know the finances aren't there right away. So good consultants there. But also health and safety funds. Those are consistently an expenditure every year, and it's a priority to the district. And we're thankful that we have LTFM program to help support that. And then here's by site. And this will fluctuate year to year. As one site chips off a big project or completes a big project, then the next year that percentage might decrease, right? And so that the attention kind of fluctuates based on what year each building's getting a little more attention. So this year, over the 10 years, I guess you see the high school getting 29%. This makes sense. The high school is our biggest building with 270,000 square feet. And then the next big chunk of money is district-wide. Hammer Complex, some expensive projects coming up in the 10-year plan there between the track and the turf field there too. So kind of nice little breakdown, shows how it's dispersed. Okay, so You should have copies of the expenditure worksheet, the revenue worksheet, copy of the capital LTFM summary. And I believe in the board packet, there was a board resolution. So this is an action item, and this evening, we're asking the board to approve the MDE LTFM plan via board resolution.
Can I ask a question quick first? In that first pie chart, there was an other category. What would fall under that? Or am I putting you on the spot?
So, like, might be like a scoreboard in a gym, or something like that. That might be a replacement, but it doesn't really fit under exterior projects or classroom or interior repairs. And there's quite a few of those little items around the district that just work their way into the plan, right?
Questions on the LTFM? Mary Jo?
Well, I notice all our custodians and maintenance folks here, so thank you for everything you do. Support, is there concerns that everybody's here?
I was going to say, I know over the years, just back in the LTFM, how much you put into this for work, so appreciate the detail that we haven't had in the past. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Chairman Cloud, I'd make a motion to approve the LTFM plan as presented.
There a second? Second. Neil, second. Any other discussion on the approval of the MDE LTFM?
Paul, on the, the spreadsheet on sites that you have, I see that, like the examples, elementary schools, I see some years are six digits are budgeted. I'm assuming those are just bigger projects that are part of the plan.
Yeah, that's a good question. So are you talking this spreadsheet or the MD?
Yeah, that one,
Okay,
right there.
so I can't believe I didn't really go into clarification on this. All right, so this spreadsheet is kind of our master plan. And every single cell on this spreadsheet ties back to another page, another code, finance code.
Okay.
So we track what type of expenditure, what site that they're occurring at. So for example, if you picked, say, Halverson Elementary, another tab of this master document would be where our needs list gets put together.
Okay.
That's where Kevin's putting the work into how it's broken down. So if we tried to pinpoint each cell, I could probably tell you what's going on at that site each year and each category based off of this plan. So
Okay.
when we talk about the amount of work that goes into it, we're not just throwing numbers up there to make the budgets tie out. This is all built based off of those needs that we talked about earlier. So, yeah, so it's a good question. If you wanted some insight to any of these, we could sit down and look at that. And this would be something that as I would encourage the board, if you ever have questions when you get, it's a debate on how much I want to overwhelm you with, right? So when you get these spreadsheets, if you ever want more insight and you just want to get a look into that, let's sit down and chat and look at it. Just give me a call or email, or I can provide it to you in the full format if you'd like, so.
Any other thoughts, concerns, questions for Mr. Durbin? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the motion for the MDE Capital LTFM plan signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose the same sign. Okay, passes 7-0. And you are up for sidewalks.
All right, allow me a minute here to switch gears. All right, so this conversation, we have a policy, a school board approved policy 707. And just a quick refresher, these are some components pulled from that policy. So just the purpose is to provide for the transportation of students consistent with the requirements of law. And specifically, this policy states, in order to qualify for district transportation in the city, a student must live outside the following distances from school which he or she attends. So our kindergartners in grade school are 1 mile walk zones, and the middle and high school, so Southwest Middle School and Alberta High School are 2 mile walk zones. So the area of concern that's come forward, and this I can speak to this in a little bit in more depth, goes back to 2018. It was kind of identified as one of our areas that I would say is a concern. The picture you see here is West Front Street facing west at the intersection of Highway 69. So the speed on Highway 69 is a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. There's 4 turn lanes and 4 lanes of traffic here. Students will walk to and from school from the neighborhood west of here, from up, there's a gate up at the top of the hill. So if you can look to where my laser pointer is pointing, there's a gate up in this church parking lot that cuts into the back roads of the neighborhood. So they'll walk down here, they'll come across this path over this 45-mile-an-hour zone, over 4 lanes of traffic and turn lanes. And that's their walk route to school. Here's another angle of this intersection. So you see a pedestrian sign. We have overhead flashing lights that have been here for a long time, as long as most people can recall as this has been 4 lanes. And we do have a crossing guard here. So I've personally stepped in when our crossing guard was sick and scared the life out of me, okay? It's a tough spot to manage students and vehicles that are flowing at 45 miles an hour in a hurry to get their kids, et cetera, or get home, right? So here's the other angle. You see all the different turn lanes. People are moving different directions at this intersection. They're turning to go to the daycare up the hill. They're turning to go to the middle school. They're turning to go to the elementary school. There's truck traffic here. So where our conversations have gone over the last year is I brought the concern to our municipality, county, city, Freeborn County Emergency Management, just brought the concern forward to those that are involved in traffic, signals, signage in the city, and I knew the answer coming in, this is a state highway, right? So MnDOT had to be involved. So we started having conversations with MnDOT. I got to compliment Adam Hamburg from Freeborn County Emergency Management. He really went to bat on this. We tried getting a hold of MnDOT multiple times, and Adam Hamburg did a great job. He's been very supportive in this conversation. He said he drives this route every day, and he's worried sick about it. We got a hold of a contact that he met at a state conference from MnDOT. David Zhang is his name. And David, as he sat down and looked at this site with us, acknowledged that this is a site that has been reviewed before, but has kind of got pushed to the wayside. And his concerns are listed here on the screen. Traffic volume, truck traffic, so you have a lot of semis hauling here. The speed at 45 miles an hour, visibility, there's multiple lanes of traffic. Signage is it's kind of scarce and scattered a little bit. It's not really strategic. The change of speeds from 60 to 45, and he noted the distractions that are possible here. But the other thing that he mentioned was that the intersection just down the hill from where we're looking on this screenshot is a high fatality area. They've had a fatal accident in the last year. They've had multiple traffic accidents, and he's concerned the speed of that intersection and how close we are in proximity. So a number of concerns outlined by the experts. But he also said, we don't have time, right? We can't get here and fix this right now. So one item shared back with me, I reached when in the conversation with the city, school officials, was reminded, so it was looked at in 2018 in our Safe Routes to School program. They had a committee with 9 people, school officials, city police, city engineers, county, YMCA, and Blue Zone, and they looked at this intersection. They identified it as an area we needed to work on. And we really haven't got to any of the potential resolve for this. So in combination of concerns that we found and that we've been identified before, that our community partners in MnDOT have identified, We're also getting calls from parents that live in this neighborhood west of Highway 69 near the YMCA. Families that are concerned with their kindergarten to fifth grade age children, some Southwest Middle School students, concerned with crossing that zone. There's talks of Alden can come in and pick up our students, right? And so realistically, we should be looking at this site. So I want to outline what our walk zone looks like. This is a map of all the current neighborhoods and where that walk zone for elementary school, Sibley Elementary, extends to. So highlighted here with the red circle, this is the area of concern. Next question is probably how many kids are we talking? So 15 elementary students, 10 of which are in grades K through second. Not that the age really matters there, but it is a little bit more concerning for those younger age students. So by board policy right now, those 15 students are walking across that highway. Here's the Southwest Middle School walk zone. You'll notice it's a little similar. It extends a little further away because they're older, right, to these outer neighborhoods. But again, that walk zone here, west of Highway 69. And I believe there's only two students at Southwest Middle School. So I guess the ask this evening is to temporarily provide transportation services to and from Southwest Middle School and Sibley Elementary to students residing in the neighborhood bound by State Highway 69, West Main Street, or County Road 46, Wedgewood Road, and West Front Street, extended to the west of Highway 69 to Wedgewood Road. So also including in this, I think there's a few houses on the western side of Wedgewood Road. We would want to make sure that they're included if there's students that are residing in those homes. Cost is obviously a concern. Policy is a concern. We don't want to take policy change lightly. And I'll be honest, where I'm afraid the conversation will go is, what about this road? What about this road? Where about this road? This one has some obvious reasons that it's a little bit less safe than other areas, and that's why I'm asking for your consideration this evening for a temporary resolution. And the reason this is temporary, asking for 2 years, because that's what MnDOT has told me it would take to get some improved mechanisms out there between lighting, signage, other guidance that MnDOT could provide. One reality that they mentioned is that a really, really safe area, like a roundabout or some other traffic signals, might be out of reach financially, right? But he does have some things that he could put in place or help us get in place in the 2-year window. Cost, I believe there is a rate that we are contracted with Albert Lee Bus for a hazard zone. They would loop this into the hazard zone. And so it would be a less than half rate for students to travel on bus. I believe it was about 8,000, oh, I got to post it here somewhere. So the hazard zone transportation for the 15 students would be $4,764. Now, the other savings we would have is we would not employ a crossing guard at this intersection for those 2 years, and that was about $8,212. So realistically, we could see some cost savings in this move. So I don't think finances should be a concern. And as I bring the motion forward, it's through the lens of our values and student safety being that factor. So I guess I ask for your consideration.
Let me ask a couple questions before we ask for a motion. Has there been any discussion on, I concern myself with liability a little bit in my field. If we do remove that crossing guard for the one that missed the bus, that's gonna walk anyway, that, these type of things, it's not that I'm also a big cost guy. So how this can balance out, but that would be a potential concern of mine with the crossing guard being removed, something that's been there for many, many years, something that people are used to, that's traditional.
Yeah,
But
that's
for
a good, I think the liability discussion is one that we should have here today. My understanding is that would be just like any other walk zone, where a student that lives where they provide bus transportation, but they decide to walk, would be the same scenario, where it wouldn't be our liability necessarily if they decide to walk when they do receive bus transportation. The other liability side of this is we've known this is a potential hazard area since 2018. If something does happen, I fear that we would have some liability involved there. So I think in my lens, it probably makes more sense to err on the side of caution, get a temporary solution here while we work with the experts on how we can fix it and remedy it. And just time will help us right now with where we're at, so.
I would join Chairman Claude, and I mean, I took a pause there when you said we wouldn't have a crossing guard there. I think the fact that it's been labeled a hazardous zone, and the fact we have foreseeability of risk to our students since 2018, I would want us to retain a crossing guard there, in addition to the proposal that you've made. It's that you all know how hazardous that area is. It is a crazy place to drive, and to know what we know tonight, and to not have a safety guard, I think, is a mistake.
Is this transportation you're talking about going to be specific for those 15 students that are going to be bused to Southwest and Sibley, or are those 15 students going to be joining a bus that's already involved in that route?
There would already be a route there for maybe high school students that are getting off the hub. But the way our contract works with Albert Lee Bus is that there would be a per-student fee for the riders.
Yeah, but what I'm
This would
saying
be
is,
on a hazard
we
fee, so-
already have transportation that covers that area or
Yes.
in the neighborhood of that area.
Yes,
So we're not adding another bus or another route. We're just
correct.
allowing these 15 students, despite the fact that they live within walking distance, the opportunity to get on that bus.
Yes, despite the fact that they are in the walk zone. yes.
Okay.
Well, I was going to make the motion to temporarily provide transportation so we could have discussion.
Okay, I'll take that as the motion, but we still got discussion after that. Is there a second anyone like to make to provide the temporary transportation up to 2 years to, as we work toward a permanent solution for the crossing area? And Neil would second it. Any other discussion?
If we were to, so retaining a crossing guard there doesn't have to be part of this resolution then. If the guidance from the board is
Absolutely.
to retain a crossing guard, you can do that independent of this motion.
Yeah, and part of this discussion with MnDOT is their commitment, if we can buy some time, is to start a study. And so they're going to come down in October and install some cameras on the intersection. And one of the fears that David from MnDOT had was that maybe their initial study, when they established what signage and what was needed there, was done in the summer months. And we all know that that intersection looks way different during the school day, right? With buses, parents, before and after school. So there's kind of some hot times that they need to get cameras on, establish what the best recommendation would be. So with that note, Gary, or excuse me, Director Schindler, I think we could consider a crossing guard and keep an eye on the usage.
Yeah.
If we go out there and there's nobody walking for the first month of school, I mean, do we have this discussion about pulling the crossing guard back? And the other piece there is, I think MnDOT recommended to manage this crossing, we would want 3 crossing guards. Like if we were going to continue what we're doing right now, you'd want 3 full, crossing guards there during, before, and after school. And it's really hard to find crossing guards. So right now we have 2 temp service employees that do our crossing guard duties throughout the school year. That's it. And they're hard to get in the others. So hence why I was out there with the vest on at one point, right? So, but I think that's a reasonable ask.
Yeah.
I grew up in that neighborhood and hopped over that gate that you were talking about many times, crossing over to Sibley and then again through Southwest. And that intersection is very dangerous, especially in the winter. The stowing outside, it's divisible's hard and it's slippery for us walking, kids walking, and the drivers. My question, I think, was the concerns. You said you had numerous concerns. Is that from like parents of the kids that live in that neighborhood? I guess my question is, if we offer it, are we still going to get a bunch of those kids still wanting to walk, or are they going to be actually getting on the bus?
So I don't know the right answer to that, Davey. The conversations I've had with the parents is they're asking for transportation. And I've promised some follow-up, and as we started to look at the intersection and look at it deeper, this is where it's led us. And so I think the next step would be to follow up with those families after the board takes action this evening and let them know where we're at with, that promise to them, and make sure that they're going to utilize that transportation. Obviously, if they don't take the transportation, then we won't be charged as a district for that either, so.
Will there be a crossing guard on Front Street, or would there be nobody there at all?
So that's where we haven't had one before. We've had one that crosses the highway, and that crossing guard's trying to manage both sides of the divided highway. And you can imagine an elderly crossing guard and then youthful students that are full of energy getting ahead or behind of this crossing guard. And we haven't had anybody managing the other direction. And so that's why 3 are recommended, 1 to go Front Street, 1 for each lane of the highway. And hopeful that when this study is completed, we can find some other mechanisms to control traffic a little more before we need to have 3 employees present.
And what type of communication will the parents get? Will they understand that this is temporary for 2 years and that there won't be a crossing guard if that's what ends up happening?
Good question. So I just spoke with Albert Lee Bus today, and they will get a notice from Albert Lee Bus that transportation will be available. The parents that have inquired with me, I have their contact info. I will reach out and have conversations with each of them. But I can see with Albert Lee Bus if there's a need for further communication there to make sure they understand the parameters of the board decision this evening.
Dave? The question I had, you indicated that your concern is that now there'll be like hotspots, there'll be like identification of other areas. So in your opinion or in your knowledge, do you know of any other spots that are of concern or have been brought up as concerns?
Not to this magnitude. There's been some that have been brought forward, we've reviewed them, and it might be there's a section of sidewalk missing for a block, or they have to cross a road that they deem high traffic. Well, there's traffic signal with a walk light that they can get to, and it's more of a convenience concern than it is a safety concern. So I think what's really important as a board and from our lens is that we stay firm in policy as we make this decision. And we have every intent of going back to the policy as it's written after the 2-year window, and we've got some progress with MDOT. We've been firm in this in the past. I know Director Anderson, prior to me, was very firm in policy. I know our school board stood firm on these walk zones. And there are established hazard zones in the district that go back quite a ways. And those would be treated the same, just like this. But I think it's important, anytime we're looking at policy, we stay firm on that. And I can be that first line of defense. And I promise my commitment will be I'll review those. And, we wouldn't go anywhere outside the bounds of the policy without the board. So.
One other quick question of the 15 and 2 you had mentioned, potential walkers. That's what you would find out during those first weeks if they were planning on using the service. And then just to piggyback a little bit on Davey, so that would be an existing, it would be another pickup with already an existing bus. It would not be a new route just for that group of people, correct?
I believe so. There's been other conversations. There's a need from the YMCA. We're trying to partner only way I could see an additional route being built is if that demand in the line kind of comes up the system. But right now. Sorry, I hit my mic. Right now, I believe it would be on an existing route. That's my understanding. So.
I noticed we have the principals of Sibley and the middle school here. I just wondered if you had any thoughts. I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't want to share, but you would probably know better than most people.
Correct, yeah, I'd absolutely be in favor of that as well. Like Chrissy and I just talked too, the one thing too that we might not be accounting for is the motel, and those families might be considered homeless. I do know that, we both had a family that was living there last year as well, a large family that probably would have added 3 or 4 more to that list as well. To elaborate on that discussion, students that are considered McKinney-Vento homeless would receive reimbursement from the state for any transportation costs there too. So that process would be through our social workers. They could line up the transportation for them, and then we would file for that reimbursement at the conclusion of the year.
I'm good. Oh, I'm sorry, I got my thing on. so
No, that's all right.
Didn't want,
That's me most times. All right, I will go ahead and call the question. All those in favor of the temporary solution that we've been discussing tonight signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose, the same sign. Motion carries, and just to clarify that, that was the safety motion that we're talking about for temporary transportation, so, okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Durbin. So that will bring us to 10.3, which I'll just give you a little bit of a clarification. We've got closed session, 2 closed sessions coming up here shortly. The first one's going to be labor negotiations, and the second one will be pursuant to a Minnesota statute 13D.05, preliminary considerations for allegations or charges against an individual. And so what we will do is we will go into closed session on the first one, 10.3 for labor negotiations. When we're done with that, then we will come back and we will vote on that. It's an action item. And then we will go back into closed session for the second closed session tonight on the preliminary considerations of allegations and charges against an individual subject. So just so you know, so as we head into closed session, we'll clear the room and close the doors and get that taken care of. So I don't believe there's a vote on going into close. Is there, Dr. Isle, or do we still vote on going into closed session? Yes. We do. Okay, all those in favor, okay, so closed session 10.3 is pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.03 of the labor negotiations. I would look for a motion to go into closed session on that.
so moved.
In a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose the same. All right, so we'll clear for close. So moved. Do we have a second? Second. Motion and a second to go into closed session. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of going into closed session 10.4 signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose, the same sign. Back to closed session.